When I was 10, for my sister's birthday, she wanted a porcelain doll. My father said, "Go on, slap your sister, and I'll buy it for you." And so, I took a hard slap across the face. When I was 17, my father sent my sister to study abroad but refused to pay for my college. I begged him for days. He threw $50 at me. "I don't owe you a damn thing, Alara." When I was 27, my sister returned from overseas, took a liking to my husband, and began to subtly and not so subtly flirt with him. My father sneered at me. "If you can't keep a man, that's your own failure." Yes, they all preferred my sister, Rosalie, the one with the fancy degree and the sweet-talking tongue. Even my own son. On his 5th birthday, my son, Leo, wanted to go to the amusement park, but not with me. He said I was too bossy. My husband, David, joked with him. "Go give mommy a slap. If she gets mad, she won't go. Then we can go with your auntie Rosalie." And my son really did walk over and slap me. The sound was sharp and loud. I just stood there, stunned, until my son's voice piped up again. "Daddy, is she mad now? Can I go to the amusement park with Auntie Rosalie?" David took our son to the amusement park without telling me. When they came back, Leo was holding a small, cheap-looking stuffed toy. He held it out to me timidly, not saying a word. His eyes, however, kept darting toward David, as if to say, "I did what you said to make her happy. Why is she still ignoring me?" I was in the dining room, packaging the desserts I had just finished baking. David walked in and saw the scene, his brow furrowing in disapproval. "Alara, are you really going to stay mad at your own son this long, over a joke?" He ruffled Leo's hair. "He was thinking about you the whole time we were at the park today, and this is the look you give him?" I glanced down at the crudely made, cheap toy in Leo's hands. On my phone, which was sitting on the table, was a message from my sister, Rosalie, sent just before they'd walked in. "Are you seriously jealous of me over Leo again? Why have you always had to turn everything into a competition with me, ever since we were kids? But I won't hold it against you. We saw one of those scan-a-code win a prize things at the park, so I had David get one for you. Just take it and get over it, okay?" David took the toy from Leo and pushed it toward me. "Alara, don't be childish in front of him." I sealed the last bag of cookies and finally looked up at David. "I'm not angry." I took out a small cookie and offered it to Leo. "Help mommy taste test this, okay?" Leo looked at the rabbit-shaped cookie. "Mommy, you used to only make the little bear cookies I like." "Oh." I got tired of those. Wanted to try something new. I started for the door. David called after me. "Where are you going this late?" "I have some things to take care of." I put on my shoes, not bothering to give him the usual detailed report of my whereabouts. "I just told Leo, remember to brush your teeth after your dessert. Mommy won't be here to tuck you in tonight." David texted me. "When are you coming home?" I pressed the button, and the screen went dark. I looked at my best friend, who was sampling my latest creation. "So, what's the verdict?" Sadie took a delicate bite, her eyes widening in amazement. "Honey, I've been telling you for years we should open a dessert shop together. I am so happy you finally come around." She looked at me with a warmth that was both proud and relieved. "I was honestly starting to think you were going to be a housewife for the rest of your life. But," she added, "my shop is in the next city over. Are you sure you can bear to be away from Leo?" I didn't answer her question. My mind drifted back to the events of the day. Leo's 5th birthday. I had woken up at dawn to prepare. I'd cooked a whole table of his favorite foods. Even the decoration on the cake, his beloved Spider-Man, was something I had painstakingly carved out of chocolate, detail by detail. But Leo hadn't even glanced at it. He was used to my cooking. No matter how creative or delicious, it could never compete with the allure of fried chicken and soda from a fast food joint. So, he'd just given the table a cursory look and turned to David. "Daddy, it's my birthday. Can Auntie Rosalie take me to the amusement park? I don't want Mom's food. I'm so sick of it." And that's when David had said it. "Go give Mommy a slap." How could I even begin to explain all this to Sadie? I had chosen my husband. My son was my own flesh and blood. Complaining about it felt pointless and self-pitying. I just looked at Sadie and sighed softly. People really do change. I used to think all I ever wanted was a family of my own, that a husband and child were my destiny. When you told me a career was a woman's real foundation, I didn't agree. I even tried to convince you to get married. "Sadie," I said, my voice thick with emotion, "thank you for not holding that against me, and for still being willing to give me a chance." Sadie looked at me. Our decade-long friendship a silent language between us. She understood the words I couldn't say. She squeezed my hand. As long as you're willing to change, it's never too late. It was past 9 by the time I finished talking business with Sadie. When I got home, I found my sister, Rosalie, sitting on the sofa with David. She was dressed in something light and revealing, and they were sitting very close together. When he saw me, a flicker of panic crossed David's eyes. But it was quickly replaced by irritation. In the past, the mere sight of him with Rosalie would have sent me into a hysterical fit, making everyone miserable. So, out of habit, he immediately went on the defensive. What are you thinking now? Leo wouldn't go to sleep without someone comforting him, so I asked your sister to come over.
Oh.
Is he asleep now? I cut him off. No accusations. No arguments. No temper tantrum. My calm unnerved him. He opened his mouth, then closed it, finally mumbling a sullen. Just fell asleep.
Good.
I'm going to go wash up. I started to walk past them. The annoyance on David's face deepened.
He suddenly grabbed my wrist.
Alara, I told you, your sister and I. Did I ask you anything? I looked at him, genuinely confused. Why was he getting angry when I wasn't even questioning him? Suddenly, Rosalie let out a sharp cry. David's attention snapped back to her. Rosalie, maybe you should head home. Rosalie looked at him with wide, pleading eyes. David, I think I twisted my ankle.
Can you give me a ride?
David glanced back at me, checking my reaction. I pulled my hand from his grasp. It's late. It's not safe for her to go home alone. You should take her. David stared at me, his eyes searching my face. Alara, what about me? His brow, which had been tightly furrowed, slowly relaxed. I'm glad you can be so understanding. It was my idea to have her come over, so I should be responsible for getting her home safely. But don't worry, I'll be right back. Oh, it's fine, I said, not wanting to drag out the conversation. I'm tired. If there's nothing else, I'm going to bed. David said he'd be right back, but a quick glance at Rosalie's Instagram story showed the two of them at a bar. Rosalie was dancing wildly. David was right there by her side, never straying. A deep exhaustion washed over me. I muted Rosalie's account. Just then, Leo shuffled into the room, clutching his new toy, his eyes heavy with sleep. Mommy, aren't you sleeping with me tonight?
No, sweetheart.
Mommy is going to sleep in the guest room. I looked at my reflection in the vanity mirror, at the faint handprint on my cheek that even makeup couldn't completely hide. Sadie had been heartbroken when she saw it, but I hadn't heard a single sincere apology from my husband or my son. They were acting as if nothing had happened. Leo's lip jutted out. Mommy, if you don't sleep with me, then I'm not letting you take me to school tomorrow. And I won't eat your food either. Leo had night blindness. He'd been afraid of the dark since he was a baby. I met his angry gaze in the mirror. Leo, if you're so afraid of the dark, why don't you ask your father to stay with you? Daddy has to work. You don't do anything all day but spend Daddy's money. Isn't it your job to put me to sleep? So, if I stop spending Daddy's money, does that mean I don't have to put you to sleep anymore? Leo let out a cold sneer, his tone a perfect imitation of his father's. Don't be ridiculous, Mom. You're not smart and successful like Auntie Rosalie. If you didn't spend Dad's money, where would you get any? From Grandpa? But even Grandpa says you're the most useless person in the family. I had heard words like these my entire life. I wasn't as brilliant as Rosalie. I wasn't as educated as Rosalie. All the best things were meant for Rosalie. It was like our names themselves were a prophecy. She was Rosalie the bloom. I was Alara the block of wood. I was used to it, numb to it. But I had never, ever imagined that one day I would hear those same words from the mouth of the son I had carried for 9 months, the son I had risked my life to bring into this world. My hands trembled. An icy chill shot up from the soles of my feet to the crown of my head. I felt rage and a deep, wounded sorrow. And then, all emotion receded, leaving behind a dead, still pool, incapable of even a ripple. I spoke to Leo softly.
Fine.
Then make sure you get up early tomorrow. Mommy won't be making you breakfast. I didn't have to make breakfast for Leo. I didn't feel the familiar pang of sadness over David once again staying out all night. I slept soundly. At 5 in the morning, I got up and packed a few essentials. As I dragged my suitcase out the door, Leo was still fast asleep, long past the time he should have been getting up for school. I took one last look at the home I had so carefully nurtured for so long. The clean clothes I had washed were drying on the balcony. The ivy I had tended to was thriving, its vines sprawling beautifully. The potted plants were lush and green, except for a few cigarette butts that David had carelessly stubbed out in the soil of the succulents. We had fought about him doing that so many times. He never listened. And Leo had learned from his example. When he was bored, he liked to pull the leaves off my plants, leaving the once healthy greenery tattered and torn. Getting angry at them had never worked. Looking at them now, I realized those plants were just like me, objects to be treated with casual indifference. I stood there for a long time. I knew I would never come back here, and I knew that David and Leo would never be able to take care of them. After a long silence, I sent a message to my neighbor who also loved gardening. If you wouldn't mind, could I give you all my plants? I'd love for them to have a good home. 9 hours later, the plane landed in Ardencroft. I turn on my phone. Dozens of missed calls and messages. All from David. Where are you? What kind of mother are you? Leo was late for school. Don't you care? Alara, are you seriously still sulking about me and your sister? Are you insane? She's your sister. What do you think is going to happen? How old are you running away like this? You're not even answering your father's calls.
Ha.
No wonder your own father can't stand you. You'll just never be as good as your sister, Rosalie. I stared at the messages. My emotions, which I thought were long dead, stirred with a faint ripple of pain. Those ripples grew sharp barbs, clawing their way into my limbs, my heart beginning to ache with 1,000 tiny pinpricks. I called him back. David's voice was hoarse from a hangover. Are you still mad about yesterday? It was a joke, and now you're abandoning your son over it. David, I said, my voice heavy with exhaustion. It's only a joke if the other person finds it funny. If someone slapped you, would you be laughing? David was silent. I continued softly. I'm going to be very busy for a while. You'll have to take care of Leo. I said I was leaving Leo in David's care. But after a long day of setting up the new dessert shop, I still couldn't shake the worry. That night, I carefully typed out a long list of instructions and sent it to him. I reminded him, Leo's water bottle needs fresh water every day. Make sure he remembers to drink it at school. David sent back a video. My fingers froze over the keyboard. I opened it. It was Rosalie treating Leo to KFC. Leo was gnawing on a burger. Auntie Rosalie, who cares if mom doesn't come back? I think you'd be a way better mom for me. Rosalie glanced shyly at David, who was filming. Don't say things like that, sweetie. Your dad has to agree first. The video ended. David texted. Alara, do you regret it? Are you sad? What stupid business of yours is so important?
See?
You've been gone for 1 day, and your son has already replaced you. Slowly, character by character, I deleted the long message I had been typing. I replied, if 1 day can erase years of my devotion, then it's my failure as a mother for not teaching him gratitude. And it is your failure as a father to not only allow it, but to revel in being fought over by 2 women. David, I think it's time I seriously reconsidered our relationship. Was I sad? Ever since Rosalie had returned and slowly inserted herself into our lives, yes, I had been sad. I had been hysterical. I had screamed and fought. Countless times, I had acted like a madwoman, clinging to Leo at night, obsessively asking him why he liked Rosalie more than me. It got so bad that Leo refused to let me take him to school. He'd sling his backpack over his shoulder, his cold eyes a perfect mirror of his father's, and ask me, Mom, is there anything about you that's actually impressive? I had lived a barren, deprived life. I thought that by having David and Leo, my life would finally blossom. So, I gave everything. I held nothing back. I thought that if I just kept giving, I would eventually earn the love I so desperately craved. That my life, like a flower, would one day bloom. But in the end, I discovered the truth. I planted flowers for the moon, and I scattered stars upon the sea. But the moon buried me, and the sea swallowed me whole. The only salvation in this life is to love yourself, fiercely and without apology. I stopped paying attention to anything related to David and Leo. I poured all my time, all my energy, into the dessert shop I opened with Sadie. She provided the capital. I provided the skill. I was busy from sunup to sundown. A month later, David showed up at the shop. He was dressed in a sharp black suit, completely out of place in the shop's whimsical, pastel pink decor. When he saw me, his handsome face was etched with its usual frown. You abandoned your home for a month for this little shop? I tried my best to remain calm. Is there something you need? He was clearly dissatisfied with my tone. His frown deepened. You're my wife. Do I need a reason to come see you? A sarcastic smile touched my lips. A whole month, and he was only just now remembering to find me? Was I just unimportant, or had he simply not cared? David loosened his tie. All right, I'm not going to waste my time. Leo is sick in the hospital. It's time for you to come home and take care of him like a mother should. Hearing his words, my heart dropped, a sharp and painful plunge. My feelings for Leo were nothing like my feelings for David, which had always been fragile, something I could take or leave. A man's heart changes, and you can find another. But Leo was different. He was my son, my flesh and blood, the child I had raised by my side every single day. I had been angry with him before. I had been eaten up with jealousy over Rosalie. I had even come close to saying the word divorce during our last fight. But every time, the thought of Leo, still so young, had stopped me. I couldn't bear it. Now, hearing he was sick, it felt like 1,000 needles pricked my heart at once. I grabbed David's arm, eyes burning. He's sick? How could that be? Under my care, Leo had always been so healthy. His immune system was strong, he rarely even caught a cold. David only raised an eyebrow. Ask yourself that. What kind of mother are you? Shaken, I begged Sadie for time off and climbed into David's car. That was when I noticed it. His car, the same one he always drove, looked completely different. The black and white accessories I had chosen to suit his taste were gone. In their place was a palette of pale pink and soft gray. Simple, understated, but with a youthful energy. Like someone else's touch. But I was in too much pain to dwell on it. My thoughts were consumed by Leo. I couldn't even wait for David to park. The moment we reached the hospital, I rushed ahead. Standing by the elevator, I whispered to myself, I don't need anything else. I'll give up everything, as long as my child is safe, healthy, and happy. But when I reached the hospital room, just as I was about to push the door open, I froze at the sound of Rosalie's voice. Oh no, Leo, I'm so sorry. I'm terrible at taking care of kids. Not only did I let you get sick, but I ordered all this spicy food without thinking. You just finished your 4. How can you eat that? And then Leo's weak, fragile voice. It's okay, Auntie Rosalie. Dad said he'd bring Mom back. This kind of thing isn't for you anyway. Once she's here, she can do it. He paused, then added softly, don't be sad. Just having you here makes me really happy. His words cut into me like a blade, piece by piece. My knees buckled, and I nearly collapsed. It was like a bucket of ice water had been poured over me, freezing me to the core. The desperate urge to see my son drained away, replaced by a hollow ache. My heart stopped. A single hot tear slid onto my hand, burning like fire. Behind me, David stepped out of the elevator. I quickly wiped my face and turned away. He wouldn't care. Whatever love had once existed between us had long withered under years of neglect. I heard him on the phone. Alara can't stand being away from the kid, he said coolly. She couldn't help herself. There was a pause, then his voice again, colder this time. My wife doesn't need to be brilliant. I just need her to take care of the family, to take care of me and our son. Who that person is, does it really matter? Later, I returned to Ardencroft. David called again, furious that I hadn't stayed. Alara, he barked, his voice tight with temper. Once, his anger would have sent me into a panic, scrambling to fix whatever I had done wrong. But not this time. I stood outside the dessert shop, thinking about the past month. The truth was, I hadn't been able to let go. Marriage isn't something you can walk away from cleanly. I had tried to leave, tried to stop revolving my world around David and Leo. But it hadn't worked. At night, I cried myself to sleep. In every quiet moment, I drowned in self-doubt. Why didn't my son want me? Why, after everything I gave, had I received neither affection nor respect? I couldn't let go. I truly couldn't. But the things you cling to too tightly will only grow thorns, piercing you until you're bleeding all over. No matter how I cried, no matter how I pulled away in silence, their hearts had never stirred. The hopelessness was crushing. David, I said at last, steadying my voice, let's get a divorce. I wanted to try, just once, to love myself. To see if letting go of what I could never hold might finally bring me peace. With Sadie's help, I sent the divorce papers 3 days later. David had just left the house, carrying clothes to stay with Leo at the hospital. The papers were handed to him on the street, sudden and unannounced. He tore open the envelope. Exhausted from days of overtime and sleepless nights at the hospital, dark circles shadowed his eyes. The house behind him was a mess. Staring at the papers, a vein pulsed in his temple. He rubbed his forehead, dazed.
Divorce?
It made no sense. Just like when the neighbor had come to collect her potted plants. Alara had nurtured those plants so carefully, furious whenever he or Leo mistreated them. She couldn't possibly want to give them away. She was sulking, he thought. She loved those plants, just as she loved him, just as she loved Leo. She would never leave them. But then his eyes caught her name. Alara, signed in neat, decisive strokes. The finality of it hit him. She really didn't want them anymore. Just like the plants she had once cherished. Discarded.
Gone.
Business at the dessert shop was thriving. On the last day of the divorce waiting period, David showed up with Leo. It happened to be Children's Day. I was in the middle of a live demonstration, sculpting a fondant spider, man like the one I had made for Leo's birthday. Sadie worked the crowd, drawing in more families.
Wow.
You're amazing, lady, some kids exclaimed. It's Miss, actually. I corrected lightly, my smile hidden behind my clear mask. Miss, can you make Elsa? Another piped up. Of course. And don't forget, we have a special offer today. I smoothly turned it into a pitch for the parents. The crowd swelled, children pressing closer as I handed out cookies and flyers. That's when I saw him. Leo. He stood with David at the edge of the crowd, his small hand clasped in his father's. He looked thinner than before, his wide eyes watery, his expression wounded. On my tray, I had only one cookie left, a little teddy bear. A quiet girl stood right in front of Leo, waiting. I handed it to her. Thank you, miss, she said sweetly. Leo's face flushed crimson. That's my bear cookie. Mine. I froze. After asking David for a divorce, I had still missed Leo. To stop myself from falling back into old habits, I would torture myself by scrolling through Rosalie's Instagram, screenshotting every picture she posted with David and Leo. Even her private messages. It's not like I'm stealing your husband and son. They're the ones who don't want you.
See?
Leo called me mommy. Looks like the real mom isn't that popular. Whenever my resolve wavered, I would open my phone and remind myself, if they don't love me, then I don't need them. I finished Spider-Man, placing him in the hands of the family who had bought the most desserts. From the crowd, Leo broke into loud sobs. That's mine.
Daddy.
That's my Spider-Man. Heads turned. David's expression darkened. Alara, aren't you going to do something? I walked over to Leo. His shoulders shook as though something priceless had been stolen. How absurd. When I had given it to him before, he tossed it aside. Now that it was truly gone, he wanted it desperately. Was this kind of possessiveness etched into men from birth? I crouched down, meeting the eyes of the boy I had spoiled countless times, only to be hurt in return. Leo, I made you this same Spider-Man once. You didn't want it then. What are you crying for now? David's real purpose surfaced soon after. He had brought Leo to force the divorce issue. Are you really not going to reconsider? There's nothing to reconsider. I tapped my phone absently, its screen lighting and dimming as Leo sat nearby with Sadie, eating dessert and glancing at me with pitiful eyes. David rubbed his forehead. Is this about your sister? You don't have to worry. First, she's your sister. I'd never cross that line. Second, Rosalie can't even take care of Leo properly. She doesn't know the first thing about raising a child. Are you really willing to leave him and me to her? I stayed silent, fingers tapping the phone screen. His patience snapped. He snatched the phone from my hand. Even if you want this divorce, can't we part on good terms? Your son and I are here practically begging you, and what are you doing? What's so important on that phone? He glanced at the screen and froze. Every screenshot was there. Every post. Every message. Proof of his and Leo's rejection, their neglect, their smugness. His anger fizzled out, leaving only defeat. His voice trembled as he pleaded, Leo and I can't live without you. We can change. Can't you just not divorce me? No, my voice was steady, my eyes clear. David, I was slow to answer your question, and you exploded. Have you ever thought about how much pain I must have been in all those times I screamed, cried, or broke down? You and Leo don't love me. You just don't want to lose the maid who dedicated her life to you. Otherwise, tell me, has either of you ever apologized for that slap on Leo's birthday? David's jaw clenched. It was just a joke. Rage surged through me. I stopped trying to explain. My hand lashed out, striking him with all my strength. His head snapped to the side, a red handprint rising on his cheek. My own hand throbbed, numb with pain. I exhaled sharply. I'm joking too, David. Funny, isn't it? Our marriage ended soon after. The day we left the courthouse, it poured rain. David stood beside me with an umbrella. It's not too late to change your mind. But his gaze wasn't on me. It lingered on Rosalie, who held Leo's hand a few steps away, her face smug with triumph. I stepped out into the downpour without hesitation. David, even if I couldn't hold my own umbrella, I'd never place my hope in someone else. Especially not a man. His brows shot up. In that instant, several sports cars screeched to a stop. Doors flew open. Sadie and the girls from the shop spilled out, unfurling a banner with practiced precision. Confetti cannons burst. They shouted in unison, "A woman independent is a woman radiant. Congratulations to the beautiful Alara on escaping hell and reclaiming her throne." In the pouring rain, they embraced me fiercely. Sadie's little nephew stepped forward with a bouquet of sunflowers. "Auntie Alara, there are millions of men in the world. This one suck, so we'll just find another." We burst into laughter. Sadie snapped open a confetti popper, deliberately aiming it at David and Rosalie. They scrambled to shield themselves, forgetting Leo entirely. He stumbled and scraped his palm, tears filling his eyes as he looked at me. But I gave him nothing. I took the boy's small hand instead. Sadie, covering her nephew's ears, smirked coldly at David. "Congratulations to our baby Alara. She finally divorced this loser." Life after the divorce was brighter than I had ever imagined. 3 months later, I received my first dividend from the shop, just shy of 6 figures. The timing coincided with my father's 60th birthday. As the eldest daughter, it fell on me to make the arrangements. I booked the hotel, hired the MC, and poured myself into making the banquet grand and respectable. David came with Leo and Rosalie by his side. They looked every bit a family. When Leo spotted me, his eyes lit up. I glanced at him for only a moment before looking away. His face fell. Rosalie clung to David's arm with possessive tension, her eyes sharp with suspicion. David gave me a slight nod. I returned it politely. All through the banquet, Rosalie barely let go of David, afraid someone might steal him. Understandable, perhaps. By appearance alone, he was more striking than any other man in the room, and with his company on the verge of going public, he was also wealthy. But Rosalie didn't know the truth. The only reason David had the time to work long hours, hit the gym, and polish his image was because his wife, me, had handled everything else. I had kept the home flawless, so he could shine outside. But why should I have? The biggest lesson my divorce taught me was this: investing in others at the expense of yourself is a losing gamble. But when you invest in yourself, you always win. Halfway through the banquet, I noticed Leo hadn't touched his food. He was too small to reach the dishes he wanted. Rosalie wasn't paying attention, and David never cared about such details. I thought for a moment, then went to the kitchen. I had a bowl of his favorite noodle soup made, and sent it to him. When the waiter set it down, Leo's eyes filled with tears. In a room full of chatter, I was the only one who noticed his hunger. He suddenly bolted from the table and ran to me, sobbing. "Mommy, I'm sorry. Mommy, I know I was wrong. Please don't leave me." The room fell silent. Guests stared. Rosalie's face twisted with fury. Whispers rippled through the crowd. "So she's the real mom? Didn't you know? The older sister was the wife. The younger sister replaced her. No way she married her sister's husband? Shameless. Poor kid. A new stepmom, a new stepdad. And look, he's still hungry while everyone else eats." Only his real mom noticed. The murmurs grew louder. I gently pried Leo's hands from my arm. "I'm sorry, but I'm not your mother." He shook his head, crying harder. "Yes, you are. You're the only one who cares about me. The only one who notices when I'm sad. Mommy, I was wrong, but it was too late. My love for Leo had eroded long ago, worn away each time he sided against me. So, why did I make him noodles? Because I refused to lose myself. It wasn't a mistake to be sincere, only a mistake not to protect myself. I would have made those noodles for any hungry child. But Leo clung to me desperately. Rosalie, under the weight of everyone's judgment, finally tried to pull him back. "Leo, come here." He wrenched free, shouting, "You're a bad woman. I don't want you. You only care about marrying my dad, not me." The whispers swelled until even my father took notice. He came over, leaning on his cane. Fearing for his high blood pressure, I tried to calm him. "It's okay, Dad. I can handle it." Instead, he struck me with the cane. The blow was so sharp I nearly buckled, and David caught me before I fell. I stared at my father in shock, too stunned even to push David away. My father slammed his cane against the floor, his cloudy eyes fierce with misplaced loyalty. "What nonsense is this? Alara's divorce is her own failure. It has nothing to do with Rosalie."
Yes.
From the very beginning, my father adored Rosalie and despised me. Even when I had given him everything, I paid for this entire banquet, yet he didn't offer me a single word of praise. But the moment someone whispered a word against Rosalie, he humiliated me publicly, without hesitation. Through my marriage, through my divorce, not once had he defended me. Not once in my entire life had he stood on my side. I shakily rose to my feet. "Dad, I've always wondered, why do you hate me so much?" That slap when I was 10 had lodged itself like a thorn in my heart, festering through every year of my life. The neglect, the constant psychological abuse, had taught me to erase myself, to please everyone, friends, co-workers, even in my marriage. I had thought I had moved past it, that I had built my own core, that I was finally climbing out. But the fatherly love I never received still had the power to tear me down. "Don't you deserve to be hated?" my father said, his face a cold mask. "So, this is why you spent all this money on my party? A stunt like this. You can't blame Rosalie just because the man you couldn't keep happens to like her." He slammed his cane onto the table, willing to ruin his own 60th birthday to defend Rosalie's honor. The pain inside me cooled into a sharp calm. I called over the hotel manager. "Make sure she pays the bill," I said, pointing at Rosalie. Turning to my father, I bowed slightly. "No matter what I do, I will never earn your affection. Since that's the case, Rosalie can handle the rest. Also, the health insurance I bought for you, the physicals I scheduled, they're canceled. From now on, if you need anything, call her. Don't call me." I faced the older relatives. "I overheard you congratulating my father on raising 2 daughters. Allow me to correct that. I left school at 17. My father gave no support after that. The money I earned, he took it to fund my sister's studies abroad. So please, don't ever claim my father raised me. I can't bear the credit. As for my marriage, the divorce was my choice. We both made mistakes. I have no desire to discuss it further." With that, I walked away, shedding the old shackles of favoritism and neglect. Today, I finally knew who I was. My life had been one long process of seeing through the false sanctity of family and blood. Even standing alone in the darkness, I felt no sadness. I looked up at the old sycamore tree above me. As a child, I had hidden here when ignored, when my father forced me to quit school. I had cried beneath its branches, weighed down by the sins of my mother, and desperate for his love. Now, having lost the things I once feared losing, my heart felt steady. My life was finally flourishing. The leaves rustled softly above me. David's voice came from behind. "You always come here when you're sad." I turned to see him leaning against his car, an unlit cigarette dangling from his lips. Leo was asleep in the back seat, traces of dried tears on his cheeks. I let myself take another look. "Rosalie's not here," David said quietly. "Nothing ever happened between your sister and me." I noticed the decorations in his car, restored to the ones I had picked years ago. Some things could be put back. "Is there really no chance for us anymore?" I asked. His deep voice trembled slightly. "I told our relatives the divorce was my fault. That I ignored your feelings. That I let our son disrespect you. You were married to me for 7 years, you gave me Leo, managed the home perfectly, and I thought it was just what you were supposed to do. I didn't cherish that. I didn't cherish that you wanted nothing from me. I didn't cherish your love for me and Leo. I regret it now." "Alara," he said, his Adam's apple bobbing, "I am willing to change. I promise, Leg, and I will never touch your plants again. You won't have to do all the housework. You can do as you wish. I'll keep my distance from other women. Can you give me and Leo one more chance?" His gaze was earnest, reminding me briefly of when we first dated at 19. He had looked at me with that same intensity then, promising love, promising he would never let me suffer like my father had made me suffer. But at 27, after he had spent the night at a bar with another woman, he had screamed, "No wonder your own father can't stand you." Which of those words had been true? Love and hate, both from the heart, made it all the more painful. Let it go, David, I said, shaking my head. My life is good now. Better, even, than it was with you. I pointed to the sycamore tree. People online say the sycamore stands tall, but its heart is hollow. I think that's strange. Why? He asked. This tree, and we will always be full of life. No storm is worth withering for. 5 years later, in the summer, Rosalie gave birth to David's son. They never married. David admitted to me that, in his heart, I was still the only wife he acknowledged. Ridiculous, isn't it? Men and their self-aggrandizing fantasies of devotion. On the day Rosalie gave birth, Leo, now 10, appeared at the dessert shop Sadie and I used to run. He clutched a fistful of crumpled bills, demanding that the new baker make him a Spider-Man cake. Sadie, flustered, called me. Ugh, don't come back, she vented. I felt a little bad for him. He was crying like his world was ending. But then I remembered how he and that scumbag father treated you, and I got furious all over again. I untied my apron. He's probably heartbroken. David is at the hospital with Rosalie, and no one remembered his birthday. Sadie paused. He brought this on himself, didn't he? He did, I said. There was nothing to pity. Later, after Rosalie had her baby, David still refused to marry her. She had no official title, no security, and eventually, she broke. Screaming matches erupted at home, spilling into David's office. The more she raged, the more annoyed he became. And where there's one affair, there's always another. Rosalie was cast aside. When she learned David would rather marry his new mistress than give her a legal claim, she stormed into his office with a kitchen knife. After listing his sins, she stabbed him. My father called, asking me to go bail her out. With nothing pressing, I went. The glamorous, worldly Rosalie was gone. Disheveled, defeated, she hadn't expected me. Through the glass partition, she screamed, "You're just here to laugh at me, aren't you?" I waited calmly. Then I picked up the phone. "Rosalie, you're right. I am here to laugh at you. You had such a bright future. Tell me, what did you get from obsessing over one man?" She stared, then covered her face and wept. Yes. What had she really gained? After posting her bail, I severed all ties with my father. Sadie was waiting outside. Why were you so soft on her? They couldn't have forced you to even pay. She's my sister, I admitted. Before our mother left, we were very close. Part of what happened to her is my fault. I didn't guide her well enough. There you go again, taking all the responsibility. If someone's determined to be crooked, no outside force can straighten them. Okay, fine, I shrugged. Honestly, I wanted to see David get what he deserved. She stabbed him. She did what I couldn't, and it makes me happy. I earn well now, so why not let her have her moment? True, Sadie nodded. Why is it always women paying the price over a man? Why not see a man ruined for once? Oh, he's already ruined, I said, raising an eyebrow. Permanently injured, his company gone, the new mistress fled, and his teenage son wants nothing to do with him. How do you know all this? A true woman never looks back, I said, showing my phone. Leo gives me daily updates on how miserable his life is. Tisk, tisk, Sadie sighed. Only 5 years. They did it to themselves, didn't they? They did. I agreed. I sighed too. David could have had a much better future. But that world wasn't mine anymore. My life stretched far beyond their petty dramas, destined for a horizon much, much wider.